Welcome, focused learners, to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is literally going to bend your mind. We're talking about a physical, 600-year-old artifact that is sitting in a vault right now, actively defying all human comprehension. You know, we live in this incredible age where we've mapped the human genome, we've sent probes way past Pluto, and we have AI that can translate obscure dialects in absolute milliseconds. And yet, there's a book, just a single ancient book that completely stonewalls every single attempt we make to understand it.
It has the structure of a real language, but matches nothing on Earth. Now, that might sound like a line straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's not. This is a very real, deeply mysterious, and completely unsolvable text. Whoever wrote it had this deep, fluent understanding of a language that we literally have absolutely zero record of anywhere else in human history. So as we unravel this mystery today, I really want you to keep asking yourself, how is it even possible that a physical book exists on our planet right now that absolutely nobody can read?
All right. Let's jump right into part one, the most mysterious book. So the story of our modern obsession with this thing actually begins in 1912. That's when an antique book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich pulled this totally unprecedented artifact out of a Jesuit archive in Italy. And what he found was a staggering 240-page book. We are not talking about some tiny, degraded scrap of parchment or a broken tablet here. It's a massive, highly detailed manuscript. And every single one of those 240 pages is written entirely in an unknown alphabet. Not one letter, not one symbol matches anything ever recorded in human history. And to top it all off, it's absolutely packed with these bizarre, super colorful drawings. For a really long time, skeptics just assumed Wilfrid Voynich faked the whole thing to make a quick buck. Honestly, you can't blame them. But then modern science stepped in. Carbon-14 dating of the vellum, which is the animal skin used for the pages, proves absolutely without a shadow of a doubt that the physical materials of this book were created in the early 15th century, specifically right between 1404 and 1438. So that definitively rules out a modern forgery. It's genuinely ancient. It is a real physical artifact from the Middle Ages that has just sat there, unread, through the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, and all the way to today.
Which perfectly sets up part two, bizarre botany and strange pools.
Think about what people were normally writing about back in the 15th century. You've got religious scriptures, local historical records, maybe some royal lineages, right? And they're all written in known languages, like Latin or Early English. But you crack open the Voynich Manuscript, and what do you find? Alien plants, strange plumbing systems, and completely unknown constellations. It is such a massive, theatrical contrast. With a normal medieval text, you at least know what you're looking at. But opening the Voynich Manuscript honestly feels like you've accidentally stumbled into the restricted section of some alien library. And guys, here is where I start getting genuinely tripped up by this thing. A massive portion of this 240-page book is totally dedicated to botanical illustrations. At first glance, it looks like a medieval medicinal textbook. But over 99% of these heavily illustrated plants do not exist anywhere on planet Earth. Seriously, they look like these impossible, strange hybrids. The author painstakingly drew these incredibly detailed, bizarre root systems and weird branching leaves and colored them all in these vibrant hues, essentially documenting an entire ecosystem of alien botany that simply isn't real. It is utterly baffling. And the plants? They were just the beginning. The book features these highly complex astronomical charts, except the stars and constellations plotted on them don't actually match our night sky at all. Then you flip the page and you get to the biological sections. Now, I am not kidding when I tell you there are intricate drawings of naked women bathing in these strange, interconnected green pools. And all these pools are hooked up to these bizarre tubes that look almost like human internal organs, or maybe some kind of weird futuristic plumbing system. You look at these deeply disturbing, wildly complex diagrams, and you just have to ask yourself, what on earth am I actually looking at right now? Let's dive into part three, the uncrackable Voynich code. You know, you'd think if someone was just inventing a fake language to trick people, they'd make mistakes, right? They'd cross things out, they'd pause to try and invent the next fake symbol. But the author of the Voynich Manuscript wrote Voynichese perfectly fluently, from left to right. There are zero signs of hesitation, no corrections, no crossed-out words at all. It flows beautifully across the page, which really strongly implies that whoever held that quill had a deep, natural, deeply ingrained understanding of this completely strange tongue. And here is where the story gets super intense. Just consider the sheer, immense brain power that has tried and totally failed to read this book over the last century. First, you had the top military cryptographers from World War I. They failed. Then, and this is the crazy one, the legendary codebreakers of World War II. the actual geniuses who cracked the Nazi Enigma machine and literally helped win the war, they confidently took on this 15th century animal skin book, and they were completely, utterly defeated by it. Finally, we threw modern supercomputers and advanced AI algorithms at it. Think about that stark technological contrast for a second, a primitive medieval manuscript completely holding its own against 21st century supercomputing. But the AI actually did discover something incredible, which brings us to a concept called Zipf's law. Basically, Zipf's law is a statistical rhythm that proves whether a text has the underlying mathematical structure of a real human language, rather than just being a bunch of random scribbles. When modern supercomputers analyzed the Voynich Manuscript, they found that it perfectly follows Zipf's law. The mathematical rhythm of the words, the prefixes, the suffixes, it all proves that Voynichese is a real, structured, complex language. It is definitively not random gibberish. And honestly, this just brilliantly illustrates the ultimate paradox of the Voynich Manuscript. AI proves it's a real language, but it still can't read a single word. I mean, how wild is that? Our most advanced, absolute cutting-edge technology confirms that this 600-year-old code is a real language. It confirms it has syntax and structure, but that same immense technological power is completely powerless to translate it. We know for a fact it means something, but we are totally blind to what that something actually is. So, let's wrap this up with part 4, elaborate hoax or otherworldly secrets. Because the computers can't read it, human historians and theorists have had to step in with some wildly divergent explanations for what this book actually is. Let's just lay out the extreme theories here. On one side of the ring, you have the skeptical scholars who argue this is nothing but a brilliant, highly elaborate 15th century financial scam designed to drain the pockets of gullible kings. But on the completely opposite side of the ring, you've got fringe theorists who look at those fake stars and alien planets and argue that this book holds impossible, otherworldly secrets.
Let's break these down quickly because they're all fascinating. Theory 1, the medieval hoax. European kings in the 15th century were totally obsessed with alchemy and magic, and they had super deep pockets. So was this just incredibly elaborate, structured gibberish created by a con artist to look like a magical text, just to sell it for a fortune? But then there's theory 2, the witch's grimoire. This one is super popular and very compelling. Was this a hidden book of female health, herbalism, and midwifery? Were medieval women or witches encoding their forbidden biological and medicinal knowledge to hide it from the deadly eyes of the Inquisition? And finally, theory 3, the alien theory. Because the constellations are completely unknown and 99% of the plants literally don't exist, some people fiercely argue this is the journal of an extraterrestrial visitor, trying to document Earth's biology but getting it completely wrong. Or maybe it's a relic from a lost civilization that predates ours entirely.
So we are left standing in front of an impossible wall. You've seen the carbon dating, you've seen the totally alien botany, and you know that the greatest codebreakers in human history were defeated by this mysterious text. Which leaves us with this massive, unresolved question. If our most advanced supercomputers can't crack it, who or what was the Voynich Manuscript actually written for? Keep turning that question over in your mind. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the mysteries out there.